This car has 6 screens, 40 sensors, and yet it still might end up being one of the biggest EV failures we've ever seen. I'm talking about the Sony Honda made Afeela EV1. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why all of this tech might not save it. So let's talk about it right now. The Afeela One is the product of a joint venture between Sony and Honda and offers what is very likely the most immersive audiovisual experience of any electric vehicle ever made. Of any vehicle ever made. They also have the most extensive set of onboard sensors of any production vehicle ever. And Afeela is taking this very seriously. I have seen ads for this vehicle all over online and on TV. And they've even opened studios where you can go in and lay your hands on it, check out some of the features, how immersive it is, and pre-order it if you'd like. Let's take a look at some of this vehicle's great features before I get into why I think it's set up for failure before it even hits the market. Starting with the sound system, Afeela claims to be a theater on wheels with a 28-speaker, 360-degree sound system. Now, this is not just hype. I got a chance to listen to it, and it really does sound outstanding. And it matches well with their video screen system. The Afeela has 6 screens, not including the camera-based rear-view mirror. And for the passenger screens, each one can be doing a different thing. So you'd be playing games on one screen and another passenger can be watching a movie on another screen, which is probably really great for road trips. Now, I have not seen so much about the PlayStation integration, but it is there. Vehicle also has double paned windows and an active noise cancellation system, which can add to the immersiveness. I have to admit, I was a little concerned about this potentially reducing the driver's awareness of sounds they should hear, like emergency vehicles or external sounds that are indications of problems with their vehicle, like bumping in their tire or something. But when I sat in the vehicle, this was much more subtle than I expected it to be. The sensor array I mentioned earlier really is extensive. They have 40 different sensors around the vehicle, and this is definitely a plus, but also kind of a minus. On the minus side, some of these sensors are pretty obvious and honestly look a little silly. On the other hand, more sensors definitely would help with driver assistance, which this vehicle also has. They call it intelligent drive. And with all these sensors, I kind of get the impression of a mini Waymo. Now, I'll leave it up to you whether that's a compliment or not, and whether or not this vehicle will self-drive better than a Tesla on FSD remains to be seen. But I can say that with this hardware, it does at least have a hardware advantage over Tesla. The Afeela One also has a media bar across the front, which generally I think of as a bit of a gimmick. Though if I'm being honest, I would probably end up setting it up so that I could express my displeasure to somebody who cuts me off in traffic. Now, as far as comfort and feel of the actual vehicle itself, sitting in the seats, I can say they were very comfortable, and there's a lot of soft surfaces. It really felt nice and premium. As far as space, there was plenty of legroom in the front and the back. And the rear storage space was really big. It's very deep. So you can put a lot back here, as long as it's not too tall. You see, the thing about this is the Afeela One is basically a hatchback disguised as a sedan. One thing that really stood out for me was the looks. I started preparing this video before I had an opportunity to see one in person, and I was originally going to describe it as very simple and boring on the outside. I was going to reference, say, Volkswagens of the past decade. But when I got to see it in person, I found out how wrong that would have been. Yes, it does have some pretty simple lines, but it has a lot of accent features to it that really elevate the looks. Except for those sensor bulbs, they are still just ugly. All right, time for a comment break. Go ahead and comment down below. Based on just what you've heard so far, does this vehicle sound worthwhile? Does it sound like a vehicle that would be appealing? Again, just based on what you've heard so far, without the negatives I'm about to throw at you. So as you can tell, this is a good vehicle in general, and it has a lot of really great features to it. So at this point, you're probably coming up with the really obvious question of, if a vehicle has so much going for it, how can it be doomed to failure? Well, that is a great question. And in order to answer that, we're going to have to do a little time travel. Ready? All right, welcome to 2014, where BMW has just started sales of its i3 electric vehicle with such crazy features as a fully carbon fiber body, which you would normally only find in vehicles that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it also has the best 0 to 30 of any BMW made this year, including the M series. All that, and it comes in as an EV starting at only $45,000, which is awesome. Go ahead and check out this video as to why BMW i3 was actually a bargain for what they were asking for it. So clearly this vehicle is going to do super great. So let's go forward in time and see how well it did. Hi, welcome to 2021. And sales of the i3 have been okay, but not great. They sold 250,000 units in the course of 7 years, which is not awesome. And now the vehicle has been canceled. But why would sales of a vehicle with such great features and so cool be canceled and not sell well? Well, at the end of the day, it was still an EV that cost $45,000 or more, up to like as much as $65,000, with a range of only 85 miles. Now, over the years, the range got longer, but even in 2021, where there are a few vehicles with 300-mile ranges or above 250-mile ranges, the i3 still rang in at only 150 miles maximum range. So the problem is that at the end of the day, people would not be willing to spend so much money for a vehicle with such short range. But hey, my next example will probably go a lot better. Let's go. Welcome to 2022, where a new startup called Indy has a prototype for their vehicle, the Indy One. Now, this will be a really interesting take on an EV because first off, they do not describe it as a vehicle, but as a mobile device. And this is based upon the fact that they have this very large processing unit that's visible through the hood that will supposedly have incredible connectivity speeds and incredible processing speed so that you can do things like watch movies and play video games flawlessly, even while driving down the road, for the passengers, not the driver. And it also has this concept that goes with it where it'll be able to be used as a blockchain node, which allows the driver to make money through Bitcoin transactions going through it. Now, this vehicle has absolutely got to be a success, right? Well, let's find out. Oh, okay, sorry, 1 second. They canceled it. Okay, well, I wonder why that is. So what doomed this vehicle? Well, I believe it was the range for the price. This vehicle came in at $45,000 for the standard version that only had a range of 230 miles. Now, if you wanted more range, you can get the premium version that had a range of 300 miles, but this now costs $69,000. And honestly, there were a lot of vehicles at that point that were hitting 300 miles of range for sub 50,000, sub 55,000. So you're asking quite a bit more for a better processor inside your car. Now, I actually did this video right here that I described how I expected this vehicle was not going to sell well. And it does turn out that I was right, though I had at least expected them to go into production, but I guess they kind of came to the same conclusion that I did and just pulled the plug. At this point, you're probably wondering, all this is fine, but what does this have to do with the Afeela One? Well, you see, in both of these cases, the thing that caused them to either not sell really well or would not have sold very well is the fact that the price was just too high for the specs that it offered. And as much as that was the case for them, it is so much more the case for the Afeela One. As a matter of fact, as critical as I was of the Indy One, I 100% would have bought that before the Afeela One. And let's take a look at why. The Afeela One is planned to be released with 2 different trim levels. The second trim level, which will come out in 2027, will be the Origin trim level. It will have a starting price of $89,000 and have a range of 300 miles, which sounds absolutely terrible to me as far as range for price. And as bad as that is the second version. The one that's going to come out this year is going to be $102,900 for the same range, which is just mind-boggling. And by the way, both of these vehicles are going to come with charging speeds of 150 kilowatt. And almost no other vehicle on the market this year is going to have charging that slow. The slowest, I think, coming out in the next year is going to be the Teslas with 250. You have many competitors that are targeting 350 and 400 kilowatt. With that in mind, hopefully you understand why I make the claim that I would have rather had the Indy one than the Afeela one. I mean, their top spec trim package comes in at $69,000 and has roughly the same specs as this vehicle. And its cheapest version will be $89,000, $20,000 more for the same specs. So yeah, I would have rather had the Indy one. But why compare this vehicle to failed startups of 2022 when we can compare it to the vehicles it's really going to go up against in 2026? Okay, welcome back to 2026. Let's go ahead and look at what vehicles this car would be competing against as far as other cars. You have the Tesla Model 3. You have the Tesla Model S for now, the Lucid Air, the Mercedes EQS sedan, the BMW i4, the Polestar 2, and the Hyundai Ioniq 6. So let's see how this vehicle stacks up against them. When comparing specs, let's go ahead and start with charging speed. Every vehicle on that list has faster charging speed, with the slowest being the Polestar 2 coming in at 155 kilowatt charging. Now, this is only a little bit faster than the Afeela 1, but it does have range of up to 320 miles and comes in at $56,400. So for Afeela, strike one. Now, what vehicle comparison would be complete without Tesla? So the lowest spec version of the Tesla Model 3 comes with 321 miles of range, 250 kilowatt fast charging, and has a price of $36,990. That's right, 1/3 of the price of the Afeela 1. So sorry, but strike two. Oh, by the way, if you're enjoying this video, go ahead and hit that like button and comment. Also, there's a new feature for YouTube called Hype, where it's a button down in that row down below that you can hit that basically sends a signal to YouTube saying, hey, more people need to see that. So it'd be great if you hit that too. And if you're really enjoying my content, you should consider subscribing and don't forget to hit that notification button to get future videos from me. And if you're really, really enjoying my content, consider becoming a channel member for extra perks or supporting the channel through the super thanks button. All right, now let's move on. For the purpose of saving time, we're going to go ahead and skip the BMW i4 and the Hyundai Ioniq 6. Both those vehicles also will beat this on specs easily. Next, we'll go up to my favorite vehicle on this list, which is the Lucid Air. It does come in with the pure model for $71,000. And for that, you get 402 miles of range and 300 kilowatt fast charging, all for roughly $30,000 less than the Afeela 1. So, strike three. Now we go to the sudden death final elimination round. One last chance for Afeela. In one corner, we have the Afeela 1. In the other corner, we have the current reigning champion for the worst specs for price, being the Mercedes EQS sedan. So we have the Mercedes EQS 450 Plus weighing in at $94,000. But for that price, you get 390 miles of range and 200 kilowatt fast charging. So easy win for Mercedes. Fatality. So as you can see, if we're talking about specs only, the Afeela 1 would have a very hard time competing even at half its price, which means that you're basically paying $50,000 for a really good sound system, more video screens in your car, and an improved ADAS, which for me is just crazy. I mean, I could take a Tesla Model 3, go to Best Buy, go hog wild with a $10,000 budget, put every kind of piece of AV equipment they have in that place in the car, and still be able to do it a whole nother time for the price of this vehicle. Now, for anyone at this point wanting to jump in and note on Tesla's history of build quality issues, I do want to remind you who they're competing against. You have Tesla versus a joint venture between a company who has never made an automobile and a company that currently does not have an EV. And no, the Prologue doesn't count because it's basically just built on a Chevy Blazer platform. So if I was going to put tens of thousands of dollars into a vehicle, I honestly would go with the Tesla 10 out of 10 times, even if their prices were the same compared to their specs, which they are absolutely not. Okay, that's my take on the Afeela 1. Go ahead and comment down below. Do you agree, disagree? Do you think this vehicle will be a success? Do you think it'll be a failure? And absolutely, please comment if you are actually considering buying this car. Let me know why. Maybe there's something I've not considered that I probably should. Maybe. In any case, I promise not to roast you for it. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit all those buttons I talked about and stick around for the subscriber shout out. And here's a video you ought to watch next.
And now it's time for the subscriber shoutouts. If you'd like your own shoutout, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel and either make sure your name is visible or put in the comments down below that you subscribed.
Bob Lee, Johnny Peteri Mosa, Run. Thanks for subscribing.